In this episode of Vinyl Haul, I've got some trad metal, some speed metal, a couple live albums, and an old compilation, with 4 of these releases put out by bands all from the great state of Texas. So stick around, y'all. First up is the second studio album from American melodic black metal band Necrofier. This is Burning Shadows in the Southern Night, released in 2023 by Season of Mist. So melodic piano intro with a haunting female vocal passage leads us to the quickly building black metal assault, which alternates between single picking and gallop riffing. Distant screechy vocals weave in and out of tracks that quickly change tempos back and forth. An interesting mix of possible influences here as well, getting moments of early Immortal, Black Mark era Bathory, and even on occasion some of the more modern black and roll bands. Bewitcher certainly comes to mind. Regarding the last, there are plenty of moments on this record where traditional black metal simply disappears, save for the vocals, making way for more melodic guitar work, notably in the solos. However, there is still plenty of atmospheric playing that keeps it rooted in black metal, just in case that was a concern for you. Anyways, vinyl variant here is 1 LP gold. It is limited to 250 copies worldwide. Yep. Also get an insert here with that graphic. Logo picture of the band. And in case you are missing the lyrics, they are right here on the gatefold. Very cool art design on this one. Anyways, as for favorites, they include Total Southern Darkness, as well as Forbidden Light of the Black Moon, and Whispers That Burn in the Dark. If you're looking for music videos, there are some. For one, Burnt by the Sacred Flame, also Forbidden Light of the Black Moon, and To the Wolves. You should watch all of those at the Season of Mist YouTube channel. So I saw these guys live early this summer, was definitely impressed with them enough to buy this record at their merch table. It's funny, while there, the merch guy tried to talk me into also buying the first album for a combined discount, but I told him I wanted to check this one out first. Probably should have taken him up on that offer, though, because this style of melodic black metal with moments of epic heavy metal, melodic guitar work, and pretty decent production certainly falls within the parameters of what I enjoy from the subgenre. So yeah, check this one out. Next is the debut studio album from American heavy metal band Bloodstar. This is First Sighting, released in 2023 by Shadow Kingdom Records. So right away, the songwriting here is catchy as all hell. Not just in the riffs, but also in the fantastic clean vocals of Madeline Smith, which has some nice range to them, showing total competence from powerful lows to melodic highs. Also, rather than going the more predictable route that trad metal revival bands often take, Bloodstar are more rooted in the late 70s hard rock sound, perhaps also some Nawabum, but also some of the more memorable indie metal bands of the early to mid 80s. I also keep hearing the vibe of a more up-tempo Lucifer here, a band that itself is also influenced by the harder edge stuff from the 1970s, but mixed with some of the more rockin' material from bands like Chastain or even Omen, maybe a little Cirith Ungol as well. But again, I can't stress enough the hookiness of these tracks. You'll be humming along from start to finish with this one. Guaranteed. I should also mention that if you're hearing a wee bit of Visigoth here, that wouldn't be an accident, as current Visigoth guitarist Jameson Palmer is also in Bloodstar. He's an incredible compliment to Smith's vocals, and a real treat to hear. I would say that side 2 of this record is a little stronger than side 1, but that's like saying that really awesome is better than very awesome, so take that as me saying that there really aren't any disappointing moments on this record. At least, not for me. Vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP Elliptical Galaxy. It is limited to 700 copies. Yep. Also get this very shiny insert. Picture of the band. Some credits. Lyrics and more credits on the back. And of course, favorites. I got them, you know that. They include Fearless Priestess, No One Wins, and Going Home. Great tracks. You should check out all 3 of those. Absolutely. So it might go without saying that I've been rather taken with this album. It's a fun and rockin' record with enough grit and heaviness, not to mention, once again, the catchiness that keeps my attention, has this one on repeated spinnings. Definitely recommended. Next up is the latest live album from American black and speed metal band Midnight. This is Haunting the Masonic, independently released in 2023. So before I get to the actual music here, I should mention that this particular album was only available from the band's merch table on their current tour, which means I got to see them live last month, and they were amazing. Of course. Also, I gotta say, I really dig the idea of exclusive records found only at shows. I don't know, maybe it'll get more people out to the venues and support these tours a little bit more. That'd be nice. Anyways, the band played live on November 5th, 2022 at the Masonic Temple in Detroit, Michigan. And the recording here is pretty good, with plenty of rawness and aggression intact, as you would expect from Midnight. The performance is solid as well, with everyone where they should be in the mix. Also really digging the set list here. I mean, only 8 songs though. I know when I saw them live, they did 15 tracks, but regardless, this is a pretty solid set, so I'm not really complaining. And speaking of the tracks on this record, this is the full set from this particular show, and in the correct order of performance. We get 2 tracks from Let There Be Witchery, 2 from Rebirth by Blasphemy, 2 from Satanic Royalty, 1 from Complete and Total Fucking Midnight, or from the White Hot Fire EP, take your pick, and 1 from Sweet Death and Ecstasy. So, a nice mix of tracks from the 20-year span of this band, though something from No Mercy for Mayhem might have been nice. I don't know. And yes, I did say 20 years as of 2023. Blew my mind when I found that out. Amazing. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP Classic Black. It is limited to 200 copies. There you go. As for favorites, gotta say, fucking Speed and Darkness. It's one of my favorite Midnight songs, but it's a great opener for this set. They didn't open with this song when I saw them. I think that it was track 3 at the show I went to in Denver. But pretty cool, great song. Love this track. Also, Sex Witchery on this one, and You Can't Stop Steel, which is likewise a great show ender. So I'd say that if you can get this record, it's definitely worth it. I do know that Midnight have put out live records in the past. I think 4 of them to be precise, but I haven't heard them, so I can't speak to them. This one is the most recent, however, so it has some newer material on it, and that might be of interest to some. I mean, it was for me. It's a quick listen at about 30 minutes, but also densely packed with plenty of black and speed metal goodness, or evilness, if you prefer. So definitely, seek this one out. Next is a compilation album of British hard rock and heavy metal bands. This is Metal Explosion from the Friday Rock Show, released in 1980 by BBC Records. So here we've got a comp of largely Nawabum bands, as well as Gillan, which isn't part of that whole thing, but they're British, so why not? Interestingly enough, this is more the hard rock side of the new wave of British heavy metal, perhaps with the exception of Angel Witch here. Even Praying Mantis with the track Johnny Cool owes more to classic rock and roll than anything metallic. Still, we all know that the metal moniker did cast a wider net back in the 70s and early 80s, so no harm, no foul. The comp also reminds me how much influence Thin Lizzy had on harder British acts of the time, which is more than obvious on the Taurus track Paper Chaser, but you hear a little bit of it throughout as well. Vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP Classic Black, as you would assume it to be. It's a great BBC Records label. Nice. As for favorites, I got a couple. Soldier by Moore, as well as Extermination Day by Angel Witch. I'd say with almost half the record dedicated to slower and more sentimental tracks with very little in the way of heavy, it's a good comp for what it is, but if you're expecting the heavier end of Nawabum, it's certainly in short supply on that. Basically, you get one song, and it's Angel Witch. Still, check it out if you're a big fan of the era. Next up is the latest live album from American crossover thrash band Power Trip. This is Live in Seattle, 5/28/2018. Originally released in digital format in 2020, but now available for the first time on vinyl in 2023 by Southern Lord Recordings. So as the title partially lets you know, this show was recorded at Numos in Seattle, Washington on May 28th, 2018. Of course, this also means that the singer was the late Riley Gale, who died of an accidental drug overdose at the age of 34 back in August of 2020. But on to happier stuff. I mean, we've got a pretty solid set list here. In fact, this is the entire show, with 5 tracks from Manifest Decimation, 4 from Nightmare Logic, and 2 from their self-titled EP back in 2011. An EP I'd love to get on vinyl one day, incidentally. Anyways, vinyl variant here is 1 LP, transparent light blue. It is limited to 500 copies, and it's a variant I believe sold out pretty quickly in pre-orders. Though there are plenty of others out there. I would stress on the word plenty. Also, a really cool black and white booklet in here. Lots of live pictures of the band. I kind of want to show a bit of this. Really nice addition to this live album. Pretty cool. Obviously, you wouldn't get this with the digital version. Yeah. More cool shots there. And there. And a great shot of the back of Riley there. As for favorites on this one, I would be remiss if I didn't say Executioner's Tax, Swing of the Axe. It's an amazing song. It's one of their best known songs. Great track. Also, Heretic's Fork and Firing Squad. Great performances, great songs, all 3 of them. Definitely check them out. I do have one complaint, though, and it's a minor one, but the drums are a little high in the mix. I mean, I get that it's thrash and drums are a big part of the genre, but I would have turned them down a touch. Again, not a deal breaker, and it doesn't ruin anything, but I thought I'd mention it. Anyways, whether you appreciate this band's incredibly energetic and bang-worthy performance here, or you simply just miss Riley, this is an excellent representation of a band at this point in time. Given that, I think I speak for many in that I really wonder what will happen to this band without their founding vocalist. I have read news that more music is planned, but not much more than that. But there have been both this live record and a 2022 box set, so I'd like to think that Power Trip is keeping us satisfied until they can get back in the studio and put out a new album. I really hope that happens. I mean, even or perhaps despite the loss, I mean, this is a great band that deserves to go on. So, yeah. Killer live album. Get it. Next is the second studio album from American death metal band Creeping Death. This is Boundless Domain, released in 2023 by MNRK Heavy. So right away, the songwriting has picked up a bit from the last album. Song structure provides more gradual time changes, but not taking away from their standard brutality and groove. We even get some Death Doom moments throughout, which is pretty damn cool. Definitely a bit of the old and a bit of the new in terms of death metal, but also some hardcore influences, which we've heard before from them, though I'd say the last is a little less prominent on this record. Despite the mix of styles, this album does lean a bit more into the old school death metal than their previous full length, but they have enough of their own core sound that differentiates them from their OSDM peers. I mean, you know when you're hearing a Creeping Death track, which is a bit of a compliment from me, by the way. Vocals, by the way, are full, raspy, and throaty with some snarls thrown in for good measure. Speaking of which, one thing I love about this band is the occasional interplay between vocals and guitars. I think it's pretty obvious in the groove moment of tracks, clearly proving that each was meant to complement the other. I mean, if such symbiosis worked for Dio and Iommi, why not other bands too? We've also got some ramped up production value here. I'd say the album has a sharpness to it, but also very thick and a bit more polished than the last album. Still maintaining its punch and aggression though, which is really cool. Producer this time is Adam D from Killswitch Engage, and no, this album sounds nothing like Killswitch Engage. Interesting though that they didn't use Arthur Risk again. Not sure why. Also, if you're wanting a guest appearance on this album, then look no further than the track Intestinal Rap, which has guest vocals by Cannibal Corpse singer George Corpse Grinder Fisher. He does a good job, though he gets a little lost in the mix, but you'll hear him in there somewhere. Anyways, vinyl variant for this one is 1 LP Coke Bottle Clear with pink and bone splatter. It is limited to 200 copies. There you go. We also get an inner sleeve with lyrics, as well as a cool picture of the band on the reverse. But what's really cool here is the promo flat. It is a signed promo flat. And just so you know, these autographs are not part of the printed ink. If you hold the promo flat up to the light, I don't think I can really do it here, But you can clearly see these are magic markers. So each and every one of these promo flats was signed individually. Very cool. Incidentally, artwork on the back of the front cover. Very cool stuff. Really psyched to see this. Anyways, favorites here, Boundless Domain, of course, as well as Intestinal Rap and Cursed. We also get music videos from this album for Intestinal Rap, The Common Breed, and Vitrified Earth. You can check all those out at the Creeping Death YouTube channel. So, very riff heavy with a lot of mid-range chugging, more than a few beatdown passages, and so much whammy bar even Kerry King would raise an eyebrow. If you're a big fan of old school bands such as Grave and Massacre, but also dig more modern acts like Skeletal Remains and Gatecreeper, this would likely sit well with your listening expectations. As you might remember, I was pretty favorable to their last album back in 2019, and while I dig that record, this one is at least a little bit of a step up for me. So yeah, check it out. Next up is the second studio album from American death metal band Frozen Soul. This is Glacial Domination, released in 2023 by Century Media Records. So since we're covering Frozen Soul and Creeping Death back-to-back, there might be a temptation to compare the two. I mean, both are from Texas, both tap into some old school, or in this case, cold school death metal, as the hype sticker said, and both bands took on a more polished sound with new producers, but that's pretty much where any significant similarities end. Still, let's get into a little bit of what I just said. So yeah, there is a cleaner and more polished sound here, likely in part from co-producer Matt Heafy of Trivium, though also involved was returning engineer Daniel Schmuck. What this translates to are sharper sounding vocals, lending a bit of depth to the guttural roars. Thick and chunky bass as well, but maybe a little low in the mix for me. Also, a bit more melodic than the last record, hand in hand with the songwriting, which has picked up a bit. And sure, they have a formula they don't often stray from, but it's a heavy and brutal formula that works for them. However, they do step outside of the shadow of Bolt Thrower on occasion, which can only further secure their own identity, and that's likely a good thing. To be fair though, some of it is still here. I mean, let's be honest. Also enjoying the intermittent dark synth passages, especially the one that opens Morbid Effigy, giving off a noticeable John Carpenter soundtrack vibe and definitely adding to the coldness and overall menace of the record. Some might find its presence extraneous. I do not. Quite the opposite, actually. Besides, I love horror movies, and clearly, so do they. Vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP white with black splatter. It is limited to 500 copies. I believe it's a European variant. Can't really remember. I do remember ordering it from Europe, though, and it took forever to get here. But that's how the mail goes. Anyways, favorites here include Arsenal of War, great song, also Glacial Domination, as well as Abominable. And there are music videos you can check out. Arsenal of War is one of them, Morbid Effigy, of course, Glacial Domination, and Frozen Soul / Assimilator. But start with Morbid Effigy because it's a fantastic video that you absolutely have to see. Anyways, find all of these at the Century Media Records YouTube channel. So catchier riffs, more interesting solos, clearer but not clean sounding vocals, and some fantastically slow and crushing moments that are guaranteed to get you headbanging. All of this gives us a Frozen Soul album that is on one hand what we've come to expect from them, and on the other hand a tighter and more refined band. I've been spinning this one regularly, and perhaps you should be as well. Great record. So just a couple other records I picked up that I have less to talk about, but are certainly worth showing. Starting with this one, it's Ozzy Osbourne and Motorhead with a 10-inch single for Hellraiser. It was released in 2021. It has the Ozzy version and the Motorhead version, both from the early 1990s, but also a 30th anniversary mashup version with both Ozzy and Lemmy alternating vocals. So 3 versions of the track altogether. That's pretty cool. Just show you the vinyl. It is classic black, of course. 2 versions on the one side, mashup on the other. Also, I snagged a copy of the 9th studio album from German hard rock band The Scorpions. Yes, this is Love at First Sting from 1984, but not the traditional album cover. Rather, this is the alternate or clean cover, also released in 1984. The reason it exists is that some department store chains refused to carry the original cover version, so Polygram issued this cover for them. So now I have both covers, and why not? Also, you do get the original Mercury labels in there, just in case you were curious. So I'm sure that, like me, you've gotten some recent metal or you're planning on getting some. You should let me know what you got or what you're getting and what looks good for future releases. If you got any of the records I mentioned, which ones did you like or dislike? And of course, any and all music suggestions in general that you might have for me, leave that and anything else you think of in the comments below. Of course, if you don't know who I am or what I do, my name is Matt. This is the Accusation Network, where each and every week I do videos on metal vinyl collecting. I also do videos on classic and modern metal in general. If you like the sound of that, definitely give this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and share my videos with some of your friends. Anyways, thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next video.